I have to tell you what I did the night you sent me up those stairs, because it has cost me a week of sleep, and I am holding you personally responsible. You left me with a box, a sealed room, no windows, no peeking, and your solemn promise that from the inside I could never, by any test in the world, tell whether it was standing still on the ground or tearing through empty space with its engines lit. So I climbed into it, in my head, and I lit the engines. And then I did the one thing you told me, right at the door, to go home and watch. I took a torch, a good tight beam, the straightest thing I own, and I fired it dead level across the room. Wall to wall, aimed at a mark on the far side, exactly as high as the lamp in my hand. And it did not land there. It landed low, a finger's breadth below the mark, sagging toward the floor, as though a beam of pure light had drooped in the air like a thrown stone. Light, not a scrap of weight to it anywhere. And it fell. So tell me plainly, was I dreaming that, or did you know it would happen all along?
I knew. I've known all week that you'd come back down those stairs with exactly that look on your face. You didn't dream it. Fire a beam across a room that's picking up speed, and the beam comes down low. Every single time. And the reason it robs a person of sleep is not that it's a conjuring trick. It's that it plainly, stubbornly isn't one.
But that's the part that makes no sense to me. It's a torch beam. There is nothing there to fall.
Go on then. Tell me why there's nothing there to fall. Say it out loud, all of it. It matters that you're the one who says it, not me.
Because when a stone drops, it drops because the stone has heft. It has weight, and gravity has something to catch hold of, something to pull on. A beam of light hasn't got any of that. There is nothing there for gravity to grab. So a beam of light, of all the things in creation, is the one thing that ought to sail across that room perfectly, arrogantly straight, and land dead on the mark I aimed at. Going straight is the whole point of light. It is the straightest thing there is.
There is nothing there for gravity to grab. Hold on to that sentence, would you? Cradle it, keep it warm, because it's the loveliest wrong thing you'll say all night. And when it breaks, it is going to take a very great deal down with it. But you've already raced 3 streets ahead of me. Listen to yourself. You said gravity. I never said the word gravity.
Didn't I? I was so sure the whole thing was about…
Go back into your box. When your beam sagged and struck the wall low, was that box sitting on the ground of some planet, feeling the pull of gravity?
No, it wasn't. It was out in deep space, nowhere near a planet, engines running. It was accelerating. That's the whole reason I built it that way. You told me the two are meant to feel identical from inside, so I picked the clean one. Empty space, engines lit, no gravity for 1,000 miles in any direction.
No gravity for 1,000 miles. So there is nothing pulling on your beam. Nothing to grab it, exactly as you insisted a moment ago. And yet the beam still came down low. So before we breathe a single word about gravity, let us be very honest and very small about what actually happened in that room. Nobody laid a finger on the light. Nothing reached out and touched it. So why did it land low?
Well, because while the light was crossing the room…
Take your time with it. This is the hinge the whole night swings on.
Oh, that's sly. Because while the light was crossing, the room moved. The engines were shoving the whole box forward, upward, let's say, the entire time the beam was in the air. So the far wall, with my little mark on it, crept upward while the light was busy making its way across. The light went exactly where I aimed it, dead straight out into the room, but by the time it reached the far side had climbed. The mark had lifted up past the beam, so of course the beam strikes below the mark, not because the light fell, because the wall rose to meet it.
Because the wall rose to meet it. There it is. You have just said the truest sentence of the whole night, and the beauty of it is that you said it yourself.
So the light itself never actually did anything at all.
The light never did a thing. Never bent, never sagged, never drooped, never fell. Out in the honest emptiness, seen by anyone floating outside your box, that beam is a perfect straight arrow and always was. It is your room that moved out from under it while it flew. The floor came up to meet the light. That's all.
And I couldn't see any of that because I'm the poor fool sealed inside the box with no windows.
You are the poor fool sealed inside the box. You've no way on earth to know the wall climbed. The one thing you ever get to see is the beam itself. You aimed it level and it arrived low, curving gently down toward the floor in a soft little arc the whole way across the room. To you, trapped in there, blind to the world outside, the light bent.
To me, it bent. To the universe outside, it went dead straight, and my whole room ran off upward around it. Same beam, two completely different stories. All right, that's clever. I'll grant you clever. But surely it's a cheat. It's bookkeeping. The light only bends because I happen to have the very worst seat in the house. Nobody who can actually see the walls moving would ever say the light did a single thing.
It is entirely an illusion of your terrible seat. I'll grant you that with both hands, freely, gladly. Now let me quietly take everything back with the other one.
There it is. I could feel the other hand creeping round behind your back.
You remember the promise. The whole promise. The one that devoured your week. The box cannot tell the difference. From inside that sealed room, there is no experiment, not one, anywhere, that can separate I am accelerating through empty space from I am standing perfectly still on the ground of a planet held down to the floor by gravity. Those two are not merely similar. They are not close cousins who favor each other. As far as anything you could ever measure inside that box is concerned, they are one single situation wearing two different labels.
Right, that's last week's whole sermon, chapter and verse. Standing on the earth, or lit engines out in the dark, the box swears blind they're the very same thing, and I couldn't prove it wrong however I tried. I believe it. I lost a good deal of sleep believing it.
Then follow the promise wherever it wants to lead, and whatever you do, don't flinch when it gets there. In the accelerating box, your beam came down low. We've agreed on that, and we've agreed on exactly why. The floor rising up to meet the light, nothing at all grabbing anything. Now take that very same box, switch off the engines, and set it down softly, gently, on the ground of a great heavy planet.
With gravity holding it to the rock now, in place of the engines.
With gravity holding it to the rock. And by the promise, by the deepest thing you carried up those stairs last week, everything inside that box must behave exactly, identically, precisely as it did with the engines running. Every experiment you can name. No exceptions anywhere, or the promise is simply a lie. So, you strike your torch. You fire it level across the room, at a mark set as high as your own hand. Tell me now, carefully, where does it land?
It lands. No, you don't get to do that to me. Oh, that's horrible. It has to land in the same place, doesn't it? It has to land low, because if it landed anywhere else, if it landed level here, I'd have found my experiment at last. I'd have finally caught the box out.
Show me exactly how you'd catch it.
I'd fire my torch, watch where it strikes and say, landed level, so I must be sitting still on a planet. Landed low, so I must be accelerating out in space. And I'd have cracked the whole thing wide open, the thing you've sworn to me 100 times can never be cracked. So the beam has no choice. It has to land low here too, on the planet, standing dead still on solid ground, no engines anywhere, nothing moving for 1,000 miles. My level beam of light lands low on the far wall.
It lands low, on the planet, standing perfectly, boringly still on the good solid rock, not an engine for 1,000 miles in any direction. You fire a beam of light straight across an ordinary room, and gravity brings it down. The light curves toward the ground. It bends toward the very heart of the planet. It falls.
A beam of pure light falls toward the ground, like everything else does.
Like everything else does. And hold that thought close, because it's an old friend of ours. Remember Galileo dropping the feather and the hammer and finding they fall together, side by side, at the very same rate, because gravity does not care one whit what a thing is made of or how heavy it is. Well, here is the last, strangest member of that falling company. Light. With, as you so beautifully insisted, not a scrap of weight for anything to pull on, and it falls right alongside the feather and the hammer anyway. That is what the box has just wrung out of you. Not a maybe, not a perhaps we'll check on Tuesday. If the promise holds, and every single thing holds it, then gravity must bend light. It hasn't got any choice in the matter at all.
But wait a moment. You can't just quietly launder it across like that. In the box out in space, the light didn't really bend. We agreed on that. It was the honest version of the story. It was only ever the wall rising up. So when you carry the tail over to the planet, aren't you smuggling the illusion across the border with it, and then turning round and calling it real? On the planet, nothing is rising. The room is just sitting there on its rock. So what is the honest version of the bending here? Something has to be genuinely actually curving that beam, and you have spent the last 10 minutes swearing to me that nothing is.
And that is the finest question you have asked me since the first night we ever sat down together. And I want you to notice, and I want you to mind, that I am not going to fully answer it tonight. Instead, I am going to leave a small, sharp splinter of it lodged under your skin and let it ache there until the night we're ready.
Of course you are. You and your splinters.
You're quite right that on the planet there is no wall rising up to blame it on. So we are left holding a very strange bill with no obvious pocket to pay it from. And there are only two pockets in the whole suit. Either something reaches out and bends the light, but you have just argued correctly, unanswerably, that light offers it nothing to grab. Or the light is still travelling perfectly straight, arrow straight, doing nothing in the world but the plain, honest, straight thing light always does. And it is the room around it, the space itself, that is on the slant.
The space itself on the slant, exactly like the box.
Exactly like the box. Only now there's no engine anywhere tilting it. The light runs dead straight through the room, and the room it's running through is the thing that's bent.
You've said that twice now. The light goes straight, the world is what's bent. And both times you've said it and then wandered off whistling with your hands behind your back. You are going to make me chase that all season, aren't you?
I'm going to make you chase it, but not up tonight's particular hill. It's the mountain after next, and we're going to want far better boots than the ones we've got laced on this evening. So drive a flag into the ground right here, so we can find the exact spot again. The possibility that light bending in gravity is not being pulled by anything at all, that it is running as straight as anything can ever run, through something that is not, itself, laid out flat. Hold that. Keep it somewhere safe. It is going to matter more than almost anything else I tell you between here and the end.
Flag planted, splinter lodged. I resent both of them. Go on.
And here, before we leave the light, is the mirror of the whole thing, and it's the piece I love best, because it ties straight back to last week. We've said gravity bends the beam. Now take your box, on its planet, and instead of standing it on the rock, let it fall. Cut the cable. Let the whole box drop freely toward the ground, you and your torch and everything, all falling together.
All of us falling at once, at the same rate, the feather and hammer thing again. So inside the box, everything's gone weightless. Gravity's vanished. That was the happiest thought. Free fall wipes gravity clean away.
Free fall wipes it clean away. So now fire your torch across the falling box. What does the beam do?
It goes straight. It has to. If gravity's gone inside the falling box, then the beam's got nothing to bend it. So it sails dead level, wall to wall, and lands right on the mark. The falling box straightens the light back out.
The falling box straightens the light back out. Drop the room and the bent beam snaps straight again, because you've cancelled the gravity by falling, precisely the way you cancelled your own weight last week. Now, tuck that away somewhere, right beside the splinter, because it's going to walk back on stage at the very end of the night and ask you the hardest question of the whole evening.
I don't like the sound of the hardest question of the whole evening, but noted. So for now, the plain fact stands. Gravity bends light. And here's what's giving me actual chills now that it's finally landed. We didn't build anything. We didn't measure anything. We sat in an imaginary box, lit an imaginary engine, fired an imaginary torch, and simply noticed that the promise won't allow the beam to land level. And out of that drops gravity bends starlight. From a daydream, that cannot possibly be a legal way to find out true things about the universe.
And yet, it is precisely, maddeningly, exactly how this particular true thing got itself found. A man sat quite still in a chair and lit an imaginary engine, and the whole of the heavens quietly rearranged themselves to agree with him. His name was Einstein, and he called the moment the idea first arrived. The moment you met last week, the falling man who feels no gravity, the happiest thought of his life. This, all of this, is what that one happy thought was hiding folded up inside it.
So the happiest thought grows up into gravity bends starlight. That is quite a childhood for one little thought.
It's the very beginning of one. You've no idea yet what else it grows into. But let me stop you before you get too comfortable calling it a chill, because I owe you the honest size of the thing. You are picturing your torch beam sagging a whole finger's breadth clear across your little room, and that is wildly, absurdly, laughably too much.
Too much? You have just spent the entire evening carefully convincing me the beam drops. Now you're snatching the drop back out of my hands.
Not snatching it away, sizing it honestly, which is a different thing. Our planet, the good solid ground beneath your chair, its gravity is, as these matters go out in the wider universe, a whisper, a feather of a thing. The engine you would have to light to counterfeit it is a gentle one. So the sag in your torch beam across a room is real, dead real, forced on us by the promise not to be argued away, and it is so unspeakably, vanishingly slight that you could fire that beam across that room every day of your natural life and never once, not for an instant, catch it dipping. It falls by rather less than the width of a passing thought.
So to actually see it, to catch light bending with my own two eyes, I'd need what, exactly? More gravity, bigger gravity.
You'd need light skimming past something monstrous, something whose gravity is no whisper at all, but a roar. Send a beam grazing close past some great heavy weight hung up there in the sky, and the bend swells into something you could, at least in principle, actually catch and measure.
Something up in the sky big enough to do the job, and you've gone all careful and quiet on me again, which by now I know for the sure sign that there's a real story sitting right there, and you're deliberately refusing to hand it over.
There is a way, a real one, that the heavens themselves set that exact experiment up for us. A weight grand enough to do the bending, and a moment dark enough that we could actually stand and watch it happen. But that is a triumph for a much later night, and if I give it to you now, I will spoil the single best surprise this whole course has waiting in it. So tonight, the daydream is the entire prize. Sitting still in a box, we prove that light must fall.
All right, you can keep your surprise, you dreadful man. But I can hear you already winding yourself up for the next thing.
I want to take the very same box and the very same little trick and turn it now on something you would have sworn stood even further beyond gravity's reach than a naked beam of light.
Further out of reach than a weightless beam of light? What on earth have you got that's more untouchable than light itself?
Time. The plain ticking of a clock. I am going to make this same box do to time exactly what it just did to light. And if bending the light gave you a chill, this one is going to take the floor clean out from under you, which is only fitting, really, given what it turns out to do to floors.
Gravity meddles with clocks now. All right, I'm braced. But I'll tell you up front, I genuinely do not see how you get from a drooping torch beam to a clock keeping the wrong time. A beam of light has somewhere to droop to, it's got a floor beneath it. Time hasn't got a floor to fall toward.
Hasn't it now? Let's go and find out. Back into the box. Engines lit, deep space, the honest, clean version once more. No gravity anywhere, only acceleration. Except this time, I'm going to put 2 clocks inside it.
2 clocks. Identical ones I trust, or you'll cheat me somewhere along the way.
Perfectly identical. Made in the very same shop, on the very same afternoon, keeping flawless time as far as either of them has any way of knowing. I bolt the first one down to the floor, at the tail, right where the engines are doing their shoving. And I bolt the second one up on the ceiling, at the nose, as far above the floor as the room is tall.
1 clock low, 1 clock high. And how do the two of them compare notes, sealed up in the dark in there?
With the only messenger a sealed box has ever had. Light. Every time a clock ticks, it fires off a tiny flash, so the low clock can watch the high one by its flashes, and the high one can watch the low one right back across the room.
Fine. 2 clocks, flashing their ticks at each other across the dark. I'm with you so far.
Then keep your eye fixed on the low one, the floor clock, as it fires its flashes up toward the ceiling. It ticks and sends a flash straight up. Ticks again, sends another one straight up. Steady as a heartbeat, 1 flash for every tick, climbing patiently toward the nose of the ship. And the whole time those flashes are climbing, this, right here, is the entire secret of it. What is the box itself doing?
Speeding up. The engines never quit for a second. The whole box is going faster every instant that passes.
So the ceiling, the very ceiling those flashes are aiming for,
is running away from them. While each flash is still in the air, still climbing up from the floor, the ceiling it's chasing keeps on picking up speed, pulling away from the oncoming light.
The ceiling runs away from the light. So think about 2 flashes, one just after the other. The first one sets off and the ceiling is moving at some speed, and the flash has to run it down and catch it. And it does, fine, it catches it. Now the second flash sets off just a moment later, but by that moment the ceiling is already moving faster than it was, because the tireless engines have had one more instant to speed it up.
So the second flash has a quicker fleeing target and a longer gap to close before it catches up. It takes a touch longer to arrive than the first one did.
A touch longer. And now the third flash,
Chasing a ceiling that's faster still. So it's later again. Every flash has a harder run than the one before it because the target it's chasing keeps on getting quicker. So by the time they're arriving up at the ceiling, the flashes come in, spread out, stretched apart from one another. They land lazier than they were ever sent off.
They arrive stretched apart. The floor is firing them off crisp and even, one for every tick. But the ceiling is catching them slow and sprawling, with far bigger gaps yawning between them than the floor ever put there in the first place. Now, become the fellow standing up on that ceiling. You cannot feel yourself accelerating, sealed inside the box, you never can. All you honestly know is that you are watching the floor clock by its flashes, and its flashes are dawdling in slower than your own clock is ticking. So what, in the end, do you conclude about the clock downstairs?
That it is running slow. From up here on the ceiling, the floor clock looks sluggish. Its flashes keep landing behind my own steady beat, falling further and further behind with every one. So I'd have to say the downstairs clock is losing time, running slow against mine.
The downstairs clock runs slow. And now, you already know precisely what I'm about to do to you, don't you?
Oh, you're going to land it on the planet. You're going to cut the engines, set the whole box down softly on the ground, and tell me it must all be exactly the same. Because the box cannot tell the difference.
The box cannot tell the difference. So land it. Kill the engines, set it down gently on the good heavy rock, gravity holding it firmly down. The two clocks are still bolted where they were. One on the floor, down where your feet are, deep in the gravity, close to the ground. One up on the ceiling, higher, further out of it. And everything that happened with the engines running must happen now, precisely, or the promise is broken and we throw the whole night away. So, the floor clock, the low one, down near the ground.
Runs slow. The clock nearer the ground, deeper down in the gravity, runs slow. And the high one, up top, runs fast. On the planet. Two clocks, both bolted down tight, neither one of them moving so much as an inch, sitting stone still in the very same still room, and they do not keep the same time. The low one lags, the high one races on ahead, purely because one of them sits higher up than the other.
Purely because one of them sits higher than the other. Two clocks, both at rest, in one small room, not moving so much as a single hair with respect to one another, and they flatly disagree about time itself. The one down low, deep in the gravity, ticks slow. The one up high, further out of it, ticks fast. Time runs at different rates at different heights. And look once again at how we came by it. No engine truly lit, no measurement truly made. A daydream in a box, and that box's flat, mulish refusal ever to give itself away.
Now, hold on. Let me at least make a run at saving my dignity, because my whole gut is screaming and I want the scream down on the record before you talk me out of it. The low clock is the slow one, down at the very bottom. Because I'll be honest, if you'd stopped me before you marched me through all that and just asked me to guess, I'd have bet you the house on the exact opposite.
Then tell me your wrong guess. Out loud. I genuinely want to hear the shape of it.
I'd have said the clock down at the bottom is the one being worked the hardest, pressed hardest into the floor by all that heavy gravity, straining and grinding away under the weight of it. Surely that's the one that runs fast, racing along under the strain. And the clock lounging about up top, with hardly any weight on it at all, that's the lazy one, dawdling along behind.
Everybody guesses that. Everybody. It is the natural, sensible human guess. And it is exactly, precisely, perfectly backwards. And I'm delighted you said it right out loud, so the two of us can nail it to the wall, the correct way round once and for all. The clock deep down in the gravity, pressed hard to the floor. That is the slow one. It lags. The clock up high, where gravity's grip has gone weak and thin. That is the fast one. It races. Deeper in, slower. Higher up, faster.
Deeper in, slower, higher up, faster. Say it to me one more time, plainly. I want it welded on so it never comes loose.
The deeper down in the gravity you go, the slower time runs. The higher up out of it you climb, the faster time runs. Fully half of everything left in this whole course hangs off you keeping that one the right way round.
Deeper in, slower. Higher up, faster. So the clock in the basement runs behind the clock up in the attic, and, hang on a moment, my feet, my head, Oh no.
Go on. Now say it about your own self.
My feet, planted down on the floor, are keeping ever so slightly slower time than my head is, up here in the air. Right now. As the two of us sit here talking, my head is aging faster than my feet.
Your head is aging ever so slightly faster than your feet. And it has been every single day of your life, and it will go on doing so until the very day it stops. On a person, the difference is so far beneath anything you could ever feel that it may as well be nothing at all. But so small you can't feel it is a wholly dangerously different animal from nothing. And the entire trouble of this course lives right there in the gap between those two. It is not nothing. Time genuinely, measurably runs quicker at your scalp than at the soles of your feet, simply because your scalp is that little bit higher up.
That is a deeply upsetting sentence, and I would like very much for it not to be true, but I can already feel that you've bricked up all the exits behind me again. The box did it. The very same box, exactly as it did with the light. And I signed for that box weeks ago, in my own hand. So, fine. Time runs at different speeds at different heights. But now, I think, at last, I've actually caught you out.
Have you now? Let's see it then. Show me.
This whole clock trick, the whole beautiful thing, it was built, root and branch, on the box speeding up. The flashes only stretched because the ceiling was fleeing them. But that's just flashes getting drawn out by plain motion, isn't it? Isn't that the exact same ordinary business as when a train sounds its horn pulling away and the pitch of it sags down low? The engines are moving, so the flashes stretch. That's motion doing it. That is not gravity doing a single thing to time. And on the planet, sitting still on its rock, nothing is moving at all. So where exactly is your stretch supposed to come from now?
Now that is the sharpest knife you have pulled all night, and you have put the point of it straight into the one soft spot. And you are completely, entirely right about the box out in space. With the engines lit, the stretching of those flashes is a stretching of pure motion. The ceiling fleeing the light, the flashes drawn long, exactly like the sagging pitch of a train's horn pulling away into the distance. Pure movement. No mystery in it anywhere.
Thank you. So the whole thing's just ordinary motion after all, and I can finally go up to bed.
Except that you must now do the very thing you signed your name to. Bring it down to the planet. On the planet, the two clocks are bolted down tight. Nobody is moving. Nothing is fleeing from anything. The floor clock is not running away from the ceiling. The two of them are sitting stock still on the solid rock, the exact same distance apart they stood a year ago and will stand a year hence. And yet?
And yet the flashes still arrive stretched. They have to. Because the box can't tell the difference, so whatever the ceiling saw with the engines blazing, it is bound to see with the engines stone dead. The low clock's flashes still come dawdling up, still spread apart, still slow, but now there is no motion anywhere in the room to blame it on. Nothing moved, nothing fled, and the light stretched itself out anyway.
The light stretched itself out anyway. And there is nothing left in the whole room to pin it on but gravity itself. In the box, it was motion that drew the flashes out. On the planet, with everything nailed down and still, it is gravity that draws them out, reaching directly into the light as it climbs up from the floor and pulling it long, all on its own, with nothing whatsoever moving. And that is a wholly, genuinely new thing under the sun. Not the sagging horn of a fleeing train. It is gravity itself reaching into a beam of light that is only trying to climb and hauling it out long.
Hauling the light out long. You keep saying the flashes stretch and spread and draw out, and I keep picturing a row of little dots drifting further and further apart. But a flash of light isn't a dot at all, is it? It's a wave. That's the one solid thing I managed to haul down these stairs from last season, bruised and dented but still in one piece. Light is a wave.
Light is a wave. So if I take hold of it and stretch it out long,
Then you're not just spacing out a row of dots, you're stretching the wave itself, its crests. You're hauling its crests apart from one another.
there it is. There is the whole of the second prize, and you have walked straight up and lifted it off the shelf with your own 2 hands. Light is a wave, and a wave has a rhythm to it. Crest, crest, crest. So many of them beating past you every second. And that rhythm is the wave's pitch, its color, everything there is to say about it. So when gravity reaches into a beam, climbing up out of a gravity well, and hauls the whole thing out long, it drags those crests apart. Fewer crests arriving at the top each second than ever set off from the bottom. A slower beat.
And a slower beat, in a beam of light, isn't a small thing. It's a change in the color.
A slower beat, in light, has both a name and a look to it. The light goes redder. It reddens as it climbs. Every beam of light fighting its way up and out of gravity slides just a little toward the red.
Redder as it climbs, so a beam, struggling up, out of the gravity away from the planet, arrives at the top redder than it left the bottom, its rhythm slowed, its crests hauled wide apart. You'd say it's lost pitch, like a beam of light losing its pitch climbing up a long hill.
Like light losing its pitch climbing a hill. That is it exactly, and the thing even has the plain, honest name it's earned. The light is red-shifted, shifted over toward the red from the sheer effort of climbing out. And now, here is the mirror of it, and the mirror is the sweeter half. Send a beam the opposite way, drop it down from the ceiling to the floor, falling inward toward the planet.
Now gravity's helping it along the whole way, instead of fighting it every step.
Helping it, cheering it down. So instead of hauling the crests apart, gravity packs them in tight together. The beam arrives at the bottom with its rhythm quickened, its crests all crowded up, its pitch raised. It has gone bluer. So, falling inward, light blue shifts. Climbing outward, it reddens. Out and tired, in and eager. That is the whole of it, in 4 words.
Out and tired, in and eager. That's a lovely, sad little way to say it. But something's nagging at me now. Why does the climbing light get tired at all? A ball I throw straight up in the air I understand perfectly. It climbs, it slows, gravity's taxing it the whole way up, stealing its speed a bit at a time. But you spent the whole of last season drumming it into me that light can't ever do that. Light cannot slow down.
Say the rule back to me. The one rule that kicked off the whole of the last course. The one that started all the trouble.
Light has got the one speed. Always. The very same speed for everyone, everywhere, forever. That was the crisis that started the entire season, the thing that broke everything. So, light climbing up out of the gravity can't possibly pay gravity's tax the way my thrown ball does, by slowing down. Light isn't allowed to lose so much as a single step. So then, what does it pay the tax with instead?
And now you have gone and closed the whole loop, all the way back around to last season, and I could not possibly be prouder of the join. You are exactly right. A thrown ball climbs, and it pays the toll by slowing. It reaches the top of its climb, carrying less speed than it left the ground with. But light simply cannot slow. It keeps its one unvarying pace at the bottom of the well, at the very top of it, and at every point in between. That is the bedrock the whole of last season was built upon, and it does not crack open now just because gravity's turned up.
So the climbing light still owes the toll for the climb. It's doing real work getting itself up and out of that well, exactly the same as my ball is.
Real, honest work. The same climb, the same toll owed. But it is forbidden, absolutely, the one single currency the ball pays in. It cannot hand over any of its speed. So it pays the only other way that's left open to it. It pays in colour, in pitch. It arrives at the top going every bit as fast as ever it did, but redder, poorer in the one and only kind of richness a beam of light is ever permitted to spend. It gives up energy climbing out, and since it may not surrender a single step of speed, the entire cost of the climb comes straight out of its colour instead.
So the redshift is simply the light's toll, paid for the climb. It pays gravity in red. And you know, that actually settles something down in me, because it means the bending of the wave isn't some brand new mysterious force reaching in to squeeze it. It's the very same toll the thrown ball pays. Light is just made to pay its share in a far stranger coin.
The same toll, only paid in the stranger coin. And now I want to show you the one thing that made the man back in his chair sit bolt upright in the dead of the night. Because I have told you two entirely separate stories this evening, and I have let you go on believing the whole way through that they were two. There were the clocks running at their different rates, high and low, and there was the light reddening as it climbed. Two great shocks, two prizes, and they are not two things at all.
Not two. The slow clock and the red light are, what, the same thing? The very same thing?
One single thing, seen from two different sides of the room. And the moment you truly see that they are one, you will never be able to unsee it again as long as you live. So walk it through with me, slowly. Up at the ceiling, you sit and watch the floor clock's flashes come dawdling in, all stretched apart, slower than your own steady beat. And from that, you conclude that the floor clock runs slow. That was the clock story, start to finish.
Right, that was the whole business with the clocks.
But those flashes are made of light, and the sentence, "the flashes arrive stretched apart, at a slower beat," is the very same sentence, word for word, as the light arrived red-shifted. The reddened light simply is the slowed clock. It is one single beam, arriving one single time, described over in two different vocabularies.
Oh, so the light is the clock. The reddening of the beam as it climbs up to me just is the low clock down there ticking slow, carried all the way up to me as a message. The light is the messenger, and the message it carries is, down here, at the bottom, time is running behind. I haven't got two facts at all. I have got one single fact, wearing two different coats. The colour of the climbing light and the rate of the low clock are one and the very same truth about the bottom of the well.
One fact, two coats. And that particular phrase ought to set a bell ringing somewhere from last season, because I once handed you a different one thing in two coats, didn't I? One single field, wearing electricity and magnetism as its two faces. This is simply how the deep things always seem to go in the end. You are utterly certain you have cornered two separate creatures, and it turns out to be one, quietly turning its head to show you its other face.
I am beginning to seriously distrust the whole number two.
Wise of you. Now sit very still a moment and let us count up what we are actually holding in our hands, because I don't think you've quite let yourself feel the weight of it yet. We climbed into an imaginary box. We refused, on flat principle, to let it tell acceleration apart from gravity. And with nothing else in the world, no engine truly lit, no clock truly built, no beam of light ever truly fired, that one single refusal has handed us two of the strangest predictions any human being has ever dared to make about the world.
Gravity bends light.
Gravity bends light.
And gravity slows down time. Deeper down, slower.
Both of them. Out of a daydream and a box.
Out of a daydream and a box. And a week ago, I would have told you flat to your face that this is simply not how physics is allowed to work. You measure, you weigh, you build the beautiful trap, you hold your breath, you read the dial. You do not get to merely think very hard in a comfortable chair and have the whole universe fall meekly into line behind you. And yet, we did. We reasoned our way, step by careful step, from one stubborn little rule about a windowless room straight through to gravity bending the light of the stars, and gravity slowing the ticking of clocks. And I keep hunting, going back over it, for the exact place where we cheated. And there is no cheat there. There's no seam anywhere.
There is no cheat. There's no seam. And that feeling, the feeling of having followed every single step, being unable to find the join anywhere, and yet arriving at a conclusion that is frankly outrageous, that feeling is the real, true experience of doing this particular kind of physics. The daydream does not replace the measuring. The heavens do still have to be asked, and asked properly, out loud, with real instruments. And one day, I promise you, we will go and ask them, and I will show you the answer they give back, and it will raise the hair clean off your arms. But the daydream tells you, in advance, what that answer is going to be, with a confidence it has absolutely no right to possess, and which turns out, every time, to be entirely earned.
I can hear a but gathering itself up behind your teeth. You never once let me leave here merely delighted.
And I can't do it this time either, I'm afraid. Because these two glittering prizes do not merely sit there on the shelf, shining prettily at us. They break something. They break something large. And I would be lying straight to your face if I tied the whole night up in a neat bow and packed you off up the stairs without first showing you the break.
Of course they break something. They always do. Every single time I come down these stairs feeling clever, you go and find the one plank in the floor I happen to be standing on, and you pull it clean out. So go on, out with it. What exactly did the two of us just break?
Everything you spent the whole of last season so carefully building. Cast your mind right back. What was the great, hard-won prize of that entire season? Space and time, you learned, to your considerable distress at the time, are not two separate things at all. They are one single fabric, woven together, one stage that absolutely everything happens upon. That was the triumph you carried out of it. But that stage came with a shape, and the shape of it was
Flat. Flat and stiff. That was the whole feel of the thing. Wherever you went on that stage, it was the same. The same in every direction you turned, the same at every single spot, laid out perfectly level and rigid for the whole of time, like an endless sheet of the most unbending glass ever poured. A grid you could never dent, not with anything. Everything moved about upon it, but the stage itself just was, fixed, flat, never once budging.
a flat, stiff, never-budging stage. Now hold last season's iron rules right up against tonight's two prizes and watch the two of them collide. On that flat, stiff stage, two clocks sitting still, not moving with respect to one another, both simply resting there side by side, must keep the very same time. Must. That was gospel. That was carved in stone. Rest is rest. Two things at rest together share one single time between them, and there's no arguing it.
And on that same flat stage, a beam of light travels dead straight.
The straightest thing there is. Nothing in creation turns it. And these are not decorations painted on the walls of last season's world. They are the load-bearing walls themselves. So, tonight, in gravity, what did our two clocks do?
They disagreed. Two clocks, both at rest, both bolted down tight, not moving so much as an inch relative to one another, and they kept different time. The low one lagging behind the high one. And the flat, stiff stage says, flatly, that that is impossible. Not unlikely, impossible.
And the light?
It bent, curved gently down toward the ground, in a room that was standing perfectly, absolutely still. And the flat stage says, light goes straight and nothing anywhere turns it. So these two things we've hauled home tonight, the pair of them, the disagreeing clocks and the falling beam, the beautiful flat stage from last season doesn't merely find them surprising or startling or hard to swallow, it forbids them, both of them, outright and completely. They cannot happen on that stage at all.
They cannot happen on that stage. And yet the box we simply cannot argue our way past. The box that has not been wrong about one single thing all night. The box swears blind that they must. So one of the two of them has got to give way. Either the box is lying to us, and the whole of the equivalence you signed your name to weeks ago is a fraud from top to bottom, or the flat, stiff, never-budging stage we inherited so proudly from last season, the crown jewel of everything the two of us ever built together, cannot be the true shape of the world after all.
And you're about to tell me, aren't you, which one of the two it is that gives way?
I promised you, at the very start, honesty over comfort. So yes, I will. It is not the box.
It is not the box. So it is the stage, the flat one, the one I was so terribly proud of. You are sitting there telling me the stage itself is the thing that's wrong.
I am telling you the stage is very quietly coming apart at its seams, and that tonight is the first place in the whole story where you can actually stand and hear the thing crack. And we didn't set out to break it. Mind that, it matters. We didn't lay so much as a finger on it in anger. We just took last week's perfectly harmless little box, the one that can't tell gravity from a hard shove in the back, and we asked it two innocent little questions about a torch and a pair of clocks. And the answers it handed back to us are answers that the flat stage has no room for anywhere in it. None.
So the flatness itself is the thing that has to go.
The flatness is the thing that has to bend. Something about the shape of space and time itself, the shape of the stage, has to be genuinely different down at the floor than it is up at the ceiling. Different where the gravity is strong from where it's gone weak. Or else clocks at rest could never ever disagree, and light could never fall.
Different from one place to the next. The stage having a different character down low than it has up high, and that's the very splinter you drove into me an hour ago, isn't it? The light running perfectly straight through something that is not itself laid out flat. You have been walking us toward this one spot the entire night, whistling the whole way.
I have been walking toward it all night long. But I am going to stop dead right here at the very edge of it. Because to say what the stage is not flat actually means, to say it properly, without any hand-waving, without me simply gesturing grandly at the empty air and hoping you nod, that is going to take a genuinely new idea. A big one. And it deserves a whole night entirely to itself, with the two of us in far better boots than these.
So where does that leave me then for tonight? Give me the shape of the drop at least before you send me up.
We came down here tonight sure of two flat, obvious, comfortable things. That light travels straight, and that gravity, a mere pull, a plain Newton's tug on honest weight, could have nothing whatsoever to say to a beam with no weight in it, or to the naked, open flow of time. And we are going back up those stairs, having watched a box we cannot argue with force, both of those beliefs, together, down onto their knees. Gravity bends light. Gravity slows time.
And Newton's tidy little pull on weight can't be the whole story of gravity after all, not if it's out there bending things that have no weight in them at all for it to pull on.
It cannot possibly be the whole of it. Newton handed us a force that reaches out across the gap and pulls on heft, on mass, on weight. And tonight, gravity reached out and bent a thing with no heft anywhere for it to grab, and dragged the very pitch out of a climbing beam of light, and slowed the honest ticking of time itself. That is not a plain force, tugging politely on a mass. That is something else entirely, wearing gravity's old familiar coat. And the flat, rigid stage that special relativity handed us so proudly, the one single thing we were sure, absolutely sure was solid ground beneath our feet, is, very quietly, right there underneath us, beginning to come apart.
Beginning to come apart, and you won't catch it for me, same as the last time. Hands jammed down in your pockets and you just let the floor go.
Not letting it go. Watching very closely to see where it falls. Because a thing that falls is always following something. You taught that to your own self last week, watching everything drop together at once, the feather and the hammer sailing down side by side. When the flat stage finally does give way, it is not going to give way into nothing at all. It is going to give way into a shape.
Then let me ask you just one last thing before I climb up, so that I've got something proper to gnaw on all the way up the stairs. You showed me it yourself tonight. If I let the box fall, gravity vanishes and the bent beam snaps straight again. So if the box always wins, if I can always just cancel gravity by falling, floating free with the whole world gone weightless around me, then why on earth can't I simply fall my way clean out of all of this? Drop into the falling box myself, cancel the whole wretched business at a stroke, make the bent light and the slow clocks all just quietly vanish. Why doesn't falling make the entire problem disappear?
Ask me that again next time. Ask me that exact question, word for word, because it is the door into the whole of the next chapter, and you have gone and found the handle on it a full night early. There is a piece of gravity that you can cancel by falling. You met it last week, and it was glorious. The whole world gone weightless, the beam snapping straight, gravity simply gone. And there is a piece of gravity that no amount of falling, no box, no clever frame, no trick you could ever dream up, will ever let you cancel. A residue. And it just sits there, stubborn as stone, no matter how you fall.
A piece of gravity I can't fall my way out of.
A piece you cannot fall your way out of, however hard you try, forever. And that residue, the part that simply will not wash out, no matter how you drop, that is the part that finally, at long last, forces the flat stage to bend. But that is for next time.
The part that won't wash out. All right then, I'll carry that one up the stairs with me. A stubborn scrap of gravity I cannot fall my way free of, however hard I try. It sounds like such a small thing to leave a person hanging on, and yet it doesn't feel like a small thing at all. It feels like the loose thread all over again, the one that the whole wide world hangs down from. And you've gone and pressed it into my hand right here at the door and told me to go up to bed. So, next time then? The shape the flat stage falls into, and the stubborn little scrap of gravity that shoves it there. I'll be down early. And yes, I'll bring the box, though I'm starting to think that box of yours has done quite enough damage to me for one lifetime. Good night.